You know, man, I can't tell the difference between me and Steve Gadd. I'm better than Steve Gadd. I just don't get it. Hello, friends. Here in Ubud, Bali, Indonesia. Just had to make this video because I had a conversation with a real, young drummer in well, let's not even name the country because I don't want to get into that. But a young guy said, man, I can't tell the difference between me and Steve Gadd. I'm better than Steve Gadd. I just don't get it. First of all, I really had a hard time not letting my temper flare up because I just don't have the patience for that kind of crap, But I just tried to remember when I was young, When I was young and I didn't know shit about shit. And I went through that period of, I've got to be the best and I've got to have all these chops and I've got to, I just can't, I lose my patience sometimes. And, I think I'm trying to have some empathy for the guy and I'm just listening, I was listening to him and I said, well, listen, man. I wanted to tell him, shut up. I wanted to say, but I said, listen, man. The difference between you and Steve Gadd is this. Is that he played on Chick Corea Friends. He played all that stuff in a musical context. He did everything at the right moments, in the right parts of the composition, and in a very musical way. And he didn't copy or transcribe, somebody's solo. I just was really tried to be as patient as possible and gave him all the clues that he could possibly need to tell the difference between him and Steve Gadd, right? After a while, he started, kind of listening. He started, to realize, this is a beautiful little temple, by the way. I'm in a temple right now because as I'm recalling this, I'm trying to be as patient as possible and have all my demons of anger exercised. He started to come around slowly but surely. And I said, man, who have you ever played with? I'm not trying to offend you, buddy, but who have you ever played with? How many records have you done? How many concerts have you done? How many tours have you done? I'm not trying to offend you, but you haven't done anything, okay? You're 19. You've never even been on tour yet. How can you say such things? And I think, part of the problem is social media, because I see this guy uploading things on social media, nothing but chops and, taking songs and just blowing, not even tasteful chops. I mean, it's the typical gospel, blah, 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 just completely unmusical and distasteful, and of course all binary, no idea what of rhythm, what the 3-bar cycle is, not the faintest idea. So, in these situations, what do you do? Because I've also heard a little bit older players talk about Steve, in these ways. Oh, he's dated, and he sounds like a clone of himself now, and it's like, what? I think social media has poisoned people's minds so badly that they think that they can do that. They think they're, because they're faster than Steve is now or whatever, that they're better than Steve. Now, I think it's the duty of guys that have been around for a long time to explain to these people what's going on. And when you take that upon yourself, you risk being, you risk offending young players. You know, I can't say that I haven't been hurt. I didn't get butt hurt when people told me what I needed to do. Sometimes I would hear the truth and it would hurt, you know, but hey man, it's either they continue on this bullshit path for years or somebody sets them straight. Now, when I was a student, it was much easier to be set straight because there wasn't, you know, there wasn't social media and you know, people didn't feel like, oh, I can call this guy out on social media. Well, first of all, I would never do that. As a student, you know, I would never say, oh, Joe Porcaro said this about my playing, and you know, go whining about it to everybody. I would keep it to myself and work on the shit. You know, it's just a respect thing that I think somehow it's not in the culture because of social media. Now, India is a whole different story. Cuba and Brazil, the level of respect for drummers is so high. I don't know why in some parts of the world that this respect thing is vanished. You know, and people feel the need to, or the right to go on somebody's page, like Dave Weckl, for example. I saw some guy on Dave's page or YouTube page criticizing Dave. I know, what the fuck? I would never in a million years go up to somebody, Tony Williams or whoever, and say, hey man, you didn't do that correctly, or I don't like the way you play because this, that. What the I just have no words for that kind of behavior. You know, it's astonishing. I'm just left like with my jaw open, the lack of respect and the lack of tact and all of that kind of stuff. You know? I'm better than Steve Gadd. Can you imagine the gall and the misinformation and the lack of guidance? So, again, I think if you're an older player, you have the duty, you know, to point things out to somebody who's starting in their career, and if they even make it into a career, because most likely they'll quit drumming by the time they're 30, which just happens to apparently 60% of people. So yeah. No, there was another guy who got accepted into a big university on a full ride, and he was so full of himself, you know, that it was like, wow, again, astonishing. So I put a big band chart in front of him, right? And he stepped all over his dick. You know, couldn't read, was shit. Orchestration was crap. Time, horrible. I mean, you know, just, I think big band is where you separate the men from the boys. If I would have took that initial guy that said that about Steve and put a big band chart in front of him and had him try to play with the big, he would have stepped all over his dick, you know? I mean, I'm sorry to use these words, but somebody has to like guide people. Why do I take it onto myself? I shouldn't, you know? But at a certain point, if people are going to interact with me constantly and ask my opinion and tell me certain things, I'm going to say something, you know what I mean? I'm going to say, listen, you know, I always try to have empathy and remember when I was young, you know, but I was much more respectful, of course, when I was younger. It was just instilled into me. So yeah, that's what that's all about. Oh man, I gotta pass this bar because they're playing crappy music. I might get copyright strike. Anyway, that's my video today. Reminds me of the joke, the old joke, you know, the young bull and the old bull on the hill. The young bull says to the old bull, let's run down in that valley and make love to one of those cows. And the old bull says, let's walk down there and make love to all of them. That's what I'm talking about, see? Pretty funny. Anyway, I have another joke for you. I don't want to turn this into the comedy hour, but perhaps it's appropriate with this video. There's this guy. He walks up to a young drummer, you know, older jazz guy. Walks up to the young drummer. He goes, you know, some guys got musicality. They can read. They can play a lot of different styles. They got vocabulary. They can interact. They can play musically. They know a bunch of tunes. But you got all that other stuff, man. Oh, yeah. I think only those who've been around for a while can understand these things. That's the story here in Ubud, Bali, Indonesia, where I'm at today. Motorcycle row, beautiful area. Ubud is a Sayuri, a restaurant where I hang out. There's great vegetarian food, vegan food. And that's it for today. All right, cats. I always try to include some music at the end of these videos, by the way, because it seems to be the only way to get some music heard. If I just post a playing video, it vanishes into the netherworld of YouTube. So I always try to include music at the end of these videos so you guys can hear some playing. So here it is, our song of the day in Jindajen, China, from Inner Clock 2. Peace out.
在大家来之前呢，我们还有一个小小的一个短时间的一个交流会，在那个交流会当中呢，我们的 Phil 老师呢跟大家做了一个小小的一些点评，说到说要和音乐融为一体。
Hi friends, I'm here to tell you about an exciting new program I have on my lesson site. It's called the Elite Program. In this program, you're going to be working with me very, very closely while I guide you through the entire site. The Elite Program, why do I call it that? Because I'm searching for the most dedicated people to study this material. If you want to be a professional drummer, you're going to have to change your life. You're going to have to put drums ahead of everything. And I'm here to make sure that that decision is something that's going to benefit your life in the most positive way it can. Some websites have guest artists that come in and show you some stuff for about an hour and then they leave and you never hear from them again. You're stuck with the guys on the site that may or may not have much experience at all. In this program, you're going to be working with me directly. 3 hours a day for an entire week online, okay? We're going to be having conference online, video conference, 3 hours a day for a week. In this week, I'm going to guide you through everything, prepare you. I'm going to watch you play. I'm going to watch you practice. We're going to work together on things in the moment, okay, which is very important. Now, why the price, you may ask? Well, an online video session with me usually costs $270 for 2 hours. A private lesson with me in New York costs $100 an hour. A lot of guys charge a lot more than $100, maybe $200, $300 an hour. My price is $100 an hour. I think that's fair. So if you take that many hours with me, okay, 7 times 3, that's 21, that's $2,100. The price of the course is $1,900. So you're already saving $400 by doing it this way. $400 savings. Plus, you have the full year membership to the site with email support, Skype support, and everything else. This unique study situation has been brought about by the technology we enjoy today. Before, you would have had to travel to New York, hang out with me, come to my house, you know, have all those expenses of going to New York, which many guys have done. But now we can do things in a much more, let's say, efficient basis, more economical, and a way that you can be constantly in touch, not only having me in New York there while you're there. Okay, so this is, I think, an amazing opportunity to study. I've taught at some of the best drumming institutions in the world. That's not something that everybody can say. And I have all that knowledge right here waiting for you. If you're serious about your drumming, the lesson site is there. And I'm there as well, ready to make sure you get the most out of the drumming experience and having drums in your life. Okay? I hope you will check out the Elite Program. The most innovative curriculum there is comes from having the experience from teaching all over the world, drummers at every level from the highest drumming cultures on the planet. What you're going to need to participate is a way to interact with me online. You need to have a drum set up with your camera, your phone, or whatever. It has to sound halfway decent, and a good Wi-Fi connection so we have uninterrupted streaming. Now, as far as the price goes, if you use PayPal, you can break up the payments. PayPal offers you a variety of ways you can pay. You can use your credit card, and if you don't have access to those things, just write me and we'll figure out a way. But this is a very important program and I think you're going to love it. It's not a common opportunity to study drums, so I hope you'll take it and make the best of it. All right, folks, see you on the Elite Program. Peace.